One of my favorite people on the wine drinking planet is Sebastian Zuccardi. I had the opportunity to meet with him down in Argentina a few years ago, and he was just such a breath of fresh air, so fun, so full of life, and so passionate about Mendoza and all of the really interesting things that one can do with grapes down there. And it really caused me to fall in love with not only the Zuccardi wines, but also just Mendoza in general. I think I had this impression of the region as being one homogenous thing. And Sebastian was really the person that opened my eyes to all of the different microclimates, to all of the different terroirs, and all of the different wines that can be produced in Mendoza. And so that was one of the reasons that I decided to include his wine the first time. But when we had the chance to include the Cabernet Franc from his Poligonos collection, I jumped at the opportunity because the last time we had Poligonos, it was Malbec. It's been a few years, and I was delighted to have the opportunity to revisit this style of winemaking with a completely different grape that I'm sure a lot of you are already familiar with, which is Cabernet Franc. So let's pour this into the glass. Oh, look at that beautiful, purpley, lovely color. Cabernet Franc as a grape, let's talk about that just very, very quickly. You've probably heard this grape mentioned in lots of different places. So it's, of course, very famous in the Loire Valley. We've talked about that before in places like Chinon, where you're going to find it to be a little bit lighter in style. It's almost going to feel like a Pinot Noir, right? It's very light. It'll have kind of a rosy kind of quality to it, really great with cheeses. And then, of course, you have Cabernet Franc in Bordeaux, in Napa Valley, in lots of warmer climate places where it can be produced into a much broader, bigger style of wine. And this is sort of somewhere in between that. We are in the region of Mendoza, so the broader region in Mendoza in Argentina, but we're more specifically in Uco Valley, and in more specifically in that, San Pablo, which is going to be very high at elevation, about 4,000 feet. And that's really where the distinction for this wine lies, is in that elevation. It's the whole point of this Poligono series, is to highlight some of these really interesting different sites around all of his different vineyards, and showcase what makes them unique. The way that he does that, in addition to great quality farming, is through winemaking, or I should say maybe lack thereof. So we're not dealing with a natural style of wine, but what we are dealing with is a Cabernet Franc that's not being aged in a real way in any sort of oak. So this is mostly concrete fermentation and aging, which is going to allow the grape and the place to really show through. Remember, oak, any sort of oak influence, is going to impart its own flavor depending on what that grape is. That can register as a few different things, but primarily what oak is going to give you are a lot of those baking spices. It can give you a little extra tannin. And so doing it in concrete really allows the wine, the place, the person making it, really just to kind of like show through in a pure, pure way. So let's smell this wine. I mean, the first thing you should be getting are just these lovely like clusters of bright, freshly picked raspberries. You know, when you like open the package for the first time and it just like jumps out of, oh, and it smells so good. And then the second is just something kind of herbal and herbaceous. It's almost like the mint and all the fresh rosemary and thyme and herbs were like sitting right next to that package of raspberries in your grocery store bag. And it just brings together this beautiful sort of side by side of fruit and spice and herbaceousness. And that's what makes this wine so, so interesting, is you're really just getting grape and sight in this glass. On the palate, my goodness, this is a big wine, but it is a soft wine. It is a wine where the tannins feel really, really round and kind of silty and sandy and soft. It's a wine that feels kind of velvety as it's coating your palate, but it also like leaves a really lovely impression on there. It's not going down so easy that you're like, oh, I forgot about that. It's leaving something there. It's changing even as I'm talking, and it's evolving in my mouth. And all of those great raspberry notes that were on the nose, they've sort of evolved into something darker. Now that's getting a little bit more on the blackberry side. Now we're starting to get more of those kind of tar characteristics. We're starting to get into something that feels more dark and intense, something that feels like a little more muscular. We're just leaning into this place that has this really beautiful kind of journey throughout the glass. Every sip is going to get better and it's going to build. Those tannins that are soft start to gain a little bit of texture. And this is why you need to have something on the grill. You absolutely, if you've got any sort of like live fire situation, whether that's like an uni pizza oven that you can do, like a nice charred pizza crust, or if you've got the grill open and you're doing some steaks, something that can get a little char on it, this is the wine for that. Now, of course, being in Argentina, we're talking about one of my favorite foods on the planet, which is an empanada. So if you can get an empanada with something a little protein in there, I think that would be a great choice as well. A little handheld snack with this would do you just fine. But for me, this is definitely a live fire wine. This is a wine that I think definitely wants something that feels just as this wine does, muscular, intense, just a little bit darker and charred. And I think that's where I'd be food wise. You could also do the same thing with vegetables. You know, I'm loving like a charred cabbage right now. Any sort of like charred vegetable that's in season is going to be killer with this wine. Just make sure you've got a nice amount of salt on that, you know, give it lots of flavor, because this is a wine that can handle flavor. It wants flavor. It wants to embrace flavors. So have at it, have lots of different things on the table. I can tell you firsthand, when I was there, we had lots of different things on the table, and these wines were just so spectacular with everything. So if you're having a big group over, this is a great wine to do it with. I'm enjoying it in this glass, but I don't think this is a wine that's so fickle that you need like a proper wine glass. Feel free to like do it in something a little less serious. If you've got like tumblers or something like that, that's fine. And as I always sort of mention with most of my red wines, I like a little chill. I like it just a touch chill. This is at room temp right now, which is lovely and it's totally fine. And I think as you know, as it warms up, if you're outside, you're going to enjoy it. But this would be better served in that 55-degree Fahrenheit range. No need to decant. It's just fine out of here. I think you'll enjoy watching it evolve. And I think that you're just going to enjoy this wine in general if you haven't tried it already. Cheers.